Okay, everybody, this is Vince Russo. I'm back now with the video portion of the interview, the VIP interview with Matt Morgan. Again, here is where I want to thank you, the VIP member, for making Pyro and Ballyhoo possible for me. I love doing this. The most fun I've had in years. I love bringing on my friends and talking to them. And at the end of the day, this wouldn't at all be possible if it weren't for you. So I want to thank you. I've got Matt waiting by, and Matt, we're going to move on. Look at him, everybody. Handsome as ever. I know he dyes the beard and the hair, but the guy's going to be 38 years old in a couple of months. He's got to do something. He's chasing around Jackson all over the house. He's prematurely gray. A little hair dye doesn't hurt anybody. But Matt, let me ask you this. So now I love the fact, Matt. I love the fact, Matt, that we left it off with you admitting they move you up to the WWE and SmackDown in 2003. You feel, maybe you're not ready, and maybe you need a little bit more experience under your belt and training and development. Now, when you go up there, immediately, bro, you're drafted by Paul Heyman for Team Lesnar, and you're involved in an angle where you're working with Brock. Now, Matt, I've got to ask you, going from OVW, where, Matt, listen, I wasn't there, but I saw how Jim Cornette treated you when you came to TNA. And, bro, Cornette treated you like a son. And my experience with that was, he really treated you with kid gloves. You were his project. You were his student. I know Cornette was always looking out for what was best for you. I witnessed it by myself. But, Matt, now you leave that. And now you go to the big time. And all of a sudden, Matt, let's face it, Heyman drafts you. You're working with Brock Lesnar. A guy your size is going to be a threat to the locker room. That's the way it is. How are you feeling now, your first couple of weeks in the WWE?
My first couple of weeks, I was on cloud nine, to be honest. I was excited. I was excited for the opportunity that I was given. I mean, right away, boom, you're thrusted into like a main event angle. Like, we were closing out SmackDown. I mean, it was a big deal. But again, going back to OVW, let's be very clear. I was definitely being groomed to be a main event act. And granted, it came very prematurely, the call up. And I think to talk on that point of how I was handled in OVW, I think that was with the understanding that he was going to have some more time with me. Not 6 months later, you're on SmackDown. That said, I also knew once I was up there that, hey, I have this huge, giant fluorescent green target on my back because, like you said, the bigger you are, the bigger target you are. And so I try to do everything I can to show the guys that, hey, I'm not just some big goof. I'm an athlete first and a guy that wants to be coached and a big sponge, trying to collect as much information from some of the vets and showing the respect that I needed to show to get that knowledge through them. And I think it kind of worked against me. I think it became a point of, wow, this guy's pretty insecure and doesn't, he's always asking these questions and stuff. So I think I was damned if I did, damned if I didn't. Because if I didn't come in with that attitude of trying to ask questions to show them I was trying to get better, then, well, here's this know-it-all guy who thinks he's, God's gift to wrestling, doesn't need to ask me my opinion about nothing. So it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, Matt, you're right. You're absolutely right. But let me ask you this question. While you're going through this process, and Matt, we've already established you're an intelligent guy. So, I think, within the matter of a couple of months, you saw the landscape, you kind of understood, how you needed to maybe change your colors as a chameleon to fit into this environment. But Matt, did anybody champion you like immediately? Was there somebody there, teaching you the ropes and kind of taking you under their belt and pulling you aside, much the same way you had Cornette in OVW? Right. Was anybody doing that for you at the WWE?
It was more almost by a committee. It was a Kurt Angle. Undertaker was injured at the time, which sucks because that guy was like my idol, growing up and everything. So like that, when Taker would come back, I would always go up to him and ask, questions and his feedback and things like that. But as far, as far as like a Triple H to a Randy Orton type of champion, no, I didn't really have that. Brock to some degree, believe it or not, because I was an OVW guy. He was an OVW guy. Danny Davis had asked him to look out for me a little bit when I first started, and he definitely did. But I kind of lost that once Brock decided to leave wrestling and try out for the NFL at the time.
Now, Matt, was there any relationship at all with Vince? Because this is what surprises me a little bit. Because, I know Vince. I worked with Vince. Bro, I would imagine that Vince would see a guy your size, and I mean, bro, like, that's it. I mean, that's all he has to see. So how involved was Vince? Because again, a Matt Morgan, bro, does not come along that too often, and it kind of surprises me that Vince almost didn't personally take you under his wing. What was there a relationship there at all with him?
As like when I'd come through the curtain and things like that, I mean, I'd give him the thumbs up or thumbs down so he could tell me feedback as to what I just did, was it okay or not, kind of a thing. And he'd always give it to me. And I would say about once a month, I was in his office, always talking to him, but and asking him different things to improve on, or his feedback to me on his own accord. I mean, there was definitely a relationship, but it wasn't like this is my guy, kind of a thing. And I think it's changed since when you remember when you were there, as far back in 03, 04. And I know it doesn't seem like that was a long time away from when you were there, but a lot had changed, because at that point he has the John Laurinaitis in his ear, he has the Michael Hayes in his ear a lot more, he has the Big Show, and he has a lot of people in his ear at this point in time. And I'm not saying any of those particular guys buried me, but definitely other wrestlers were absolutely positively taking their pot shots at me behind my back and then to my face, acting like I was their project or trying to help me, kind of a thing.
Well, Matt, let me ask you this. Again, bro, you were green, man. And listen, Jim Cornette hates me, and Jim Cornette's going to hate me for the rest of his life, and like, that's fine. There's nothing I can do to ever change that. I don't have an ill feeling at all towards Jim Cornette. And like, when you say, bro, I guarantee it, in 6 months, Cornette did not want you to go to WWE. I know how the guy is. Right. I know how thorough he is. So there's no question about that. But Matt, when you were there, and just again, it looked like you were really more of the garnish than any main event status. Were they telling you particular things that you needed to work on? Were they telling you, Matt, you need to work on your mic skills, or were they working with you that closely, where they were developing you to be the guy, or were you basically left to more or less figure things out on your own?
It was kind of a bit of both, honestly, because, all right, Vince's thing with me, because I was so green, would be like, you've got to stop playing wrestler and being one. And once I got to TNA, I finally understood the difference between the two, Mm-hmm. It took a while for that light bulb to go off. That said, because I was with Nathan Jones, who really didn't get it at all, I looked like a scientist next to him. So basically, any type of thing that we did in any angle, any kind of run-ins, any kind of matches, they would put the onus on me to make sure Nathan was in certain spots at certain times in the matches and things like that. That's a lot to ask of a greenhorn of, being so young like I was. That said, I took it as a compliment. So Nathan was the one that was needed to give a lot more direction to. And I think because we were together, you only have so much time to go over certain segments with stuff. A lot of that time was spent on Nathan, you need to be here. Nathan, you got to do this. Things like that. So I think that's where I fell into that trap, because I'm with a guy that needed a hell of a lot more attention than I did. And their creative team would tell me, Dave Lagana, I remember on day one, said, look, you have a ton more aptitude than he'll ever have, and I'll never forget him saying that. So I don't know if that's a compliment or it's just, you know what I mean? I think it definitely hurt me in a way too, though.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, Matt, you don't know how many times I've had discussions like with tag teams that like never wanted to break up as a tag team. I remember, man, I had this conversation with America's Most Wanted so many times. And like, my whole thing was, listen, man, you don't want to latch up to somebody else's wagon, because after a matter of time, they're going to be looking at you as one. And if that individual is not up to your par, what's going to happen at the end of the day is that individual is going to start bringing you down. And I had that talk with tag teams throughout my years to nauseum. But now Matt, now you find out. I mean, what are you on SmackDown? Maybe a year and a half till they decide to send you back to OVW. How does that come about?
That was one of those where when I was brought up, everyone was like, look, he has a ton of aptitude. He's going to be able to pick this up. He's going to learn more. Talking about me, obviously. He's going to learn more on the road through doing house shows, working the Kurt Angles, the Eddie Guerreros, the Benoits. And I got to work I was married to all three of those guys on the road, and I did learn a ton. So it was I always took it as contradictive to when they try to say, well, you know what? Unfortunately, Brock has left. Nathan Jones had quit the WWE. We're breaking up this world's biggest stable angle with Team Lesnar now. Obviously, there's nothing left for you versus, getting me something right then and there. And I think it was more of a creative thing than anything else to send me back down to OVW. Granted, me, Jimmy, everybody will have said I needed more seasoning. So that's how I went down there and just try to improve my skills. Because up until this point, they bring me up to SmackDown with zero experience in OVW being a heel. Never once had I worked as a heel. And then they bring me up to SmackDown as a heel, of course. So again, they sent me back down to OVW, more because the guys quit than anything else. I definitely needed to improve, no question.
So, but how does that affect your psyche at all, Matt?
Yes.
Like being at the dance, and then going back there. Yeah, tell me about that. Explain that to me.
No question. I mean, I'm not too proud to admit that. You know what I mean? Definitely played some big time mind games with me, and is this a test? You know how inside your own head wrestlers we get, with insecurities and anxieties. And I'm a pretty headstrong, almost cocky guy to a degree. So this was definitely a little tailspin for me mentally to have to deal with. Being told, basically, you're not good enough right now. You need to go back here. And so I took it for all it was worth. I tried to improve as best as I could as a heel. And I really was lucky for it because I improved a lot as a promo at that point.
And when you went back down to OVW in 2004, I know you became champion there a couple of times. You're still being guided by Cornette when you're down there?
To a degree. I'm allowed to go on the mic now and say pretty much whatever I want. Jimmy would give me some bullet points, but as long as I said the time, the place, against who, I was good to go on the mic.
Matt, I was also reading, and I mean, this I found a little curious, and I wanted to ask you about it. During that second stint at OVW, was there a time where I believe there was, you were actually under a mask? And again, a guy who looks like you, a guy your size, a guy as intelligent as you, I mean, as a booker, like the first obvious thing that I have to look at is like, why would they put this guy under a mask? I understand it was only a temporary thing, but I'm just curious to see what was behind that.
This is my opinion. It was passed down to Jimmy that Matt Morgan needs to work on his body language, which is definitely, I'm sure, true. But I need to do it as well on his television. And the way to do that is we want Matt Morgan in under a hood. And that will definitely improve his body language. And what I think happened, I think Vince is going, okay, Matt Morgan, I want, out of OVW, this kid sticks out the most. Why is he still down there? And why is he not making us money up here? And whoever my naysayer was in the office at the time is said, his body language sucks. He needs to improve his body language. So let's let him stay down there a little bit longer. And Vince probably was like, oh, you know what? Then make sure you see to it that he improves his body language or whatever it is he needs to improve, but we need his ass up here, kind of a thing. And that's my interpretation of it, because putting me in a mask is absolutely retarded. It's stupid.
And then, Matt, in 2005, you go back to SmackDown.
Right. I do.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you feel that there was enough improvement in your second stint at OVW to go back, or do you feel that it was premature again?
With At the time, I felt more. I was actually, I don't want to say getting bored in OVW, but I desperately was chomping at the bit to get back. And I definitely know for a fact I improved enough to go back, because at this time, you got to remember, they're throwing so much pieces of crap against the wall to see what sticks creatively, that there was guys I thought I was definitely ahead of as far as being advanced in the game and learning and psychology and things like that. Definitely as a promo, at least, so I definitely thought I was ready to definitely come back. Definitely not ready to come back for what Vince was about to unveil to me creatively. That said,
Yeah, please go on. I'm not even going to interrupt you. Go on.
we were in me and I think it was Jillian Hall. We both got called up from OVW to go to a show in Chicago. All right, to SmackDown, and we're going catering. And John Laurinaitis comes, taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, at some point today, I want you to go speak to Vince. He really wants to speak with you in his office." I'm like, "Great, cool, awesome." I'm excited. About an hour or two later, I go to check. I was about to go check on Vince in his office, and before I got there, Laurinaitis walks out of the office. He says, "Now, Matt, this is an opportunity that Vince doesn't come up with ideas very often for individuals. That's up to the creative team, and he either yays or nays them. This is a one-on-one opportunity he's about to present you. You might want to be a team player here." Something along those lines is what he said. So I'm walking in there thinking like, "Oh, wow, what's he going to come up with for me?" So I sit down across from him, and basically Vince goes, "I'm going to give you an opportunity here. I'm going to tell you, explain it to you what kind of gimmick we want to use on you. And if you don't like it, Matt, you could be honest about it, and we can come up with something different down the road. But this was something I've been trying to put on the right guy. The guy that has the size, the look, all of these perfections, if you will, to match with this big imperfection that nobody sees coming." And it's akin to, you ever see a really hot woman in Playboy, and you've never heard her speak at all, and then eventually the first time you ever hear her speak, she has this voice that sounds like this? And I was like, "No, I've never met a Playboy model that has a voice like that, sir." And he's like, "Well, anyways, this was an idea that I'm always trying to put on the right guy, and I think you're confident enough to pull it off. But again, if you're not, you got to tell me." And I go, "Go ahead, what is it?" And he goes, "You're going to stutter. You're going to have this speech impediment, and it's going to be your Achilles heel. And no one's going to be making fun of you, but you're going to think the whole world's mocking you." And to his credit, I thought the gimmick itself wasn't a bad idea, just not for Matt Morgan. And because I'd already previously been sent back down to OVW, I know I probably couldn't afford another opportunity to be sent back there without having my bags packed. So I would have taken anything he'd given me. This is Vince McMahon talking, the creative genius, the billionaire. And if he has an idea, one would think it's going to be pushed to the moon. And that was my thinking. And I was taught, in OVW they say jump, you say how high. And I'm a very coachable person. And that's the mentality I had. Looking back, with the experience I have now, obviously I would have said no. But that's not the situation as it played out, obviously.
So Matt, walk me through it now. You go out, you're doing the gimmick. Is somebody closely coaching you?
Yes.
Are you feeling it's working or it's not working? Just walk me through it as you're doing the gimmick, which Vince suggested.
To his credit, Vince was behind the camera on every single one of my pre-tapes or promos, every one of them. I remember one of the big things was I'd always want to look into the camera when I would talk, menacing deep eyes kind of a thing. And he'd always have his hand up in the air, like on an angle off to the side. So if you ever watch like WWE TV and like the big guys cutting a promo, I always notice they're always hands are on their hips and they're always kind of looking up and out into space kind of a thing before they start talking. And it was kind of like that. And I wasn't used to it, but I was able to do it on the fly, obviously. It's not brain surgery to figure that out, but he was behind every single camera that I ever cut a promo on that television show. And anything I did in the ring promo-wise, I'd come back through the curtain, and he was very heavily invested in this. There's no question about that. He really was. So your question earlier about being championed by somebody, I think for gimmick purposes and because it was his idea, I definitely think I was championed to a degree because it was his baby, his idea. Something he honestly told me he was thinking about putting that on Brock Lesnar, quite honestly. I swear to God.
So Matt, what happened? Tell me what happened.
As far as continue doing the gimmick, my concern, and I said it in there when he first pitched the idea, was Vince, just 6 months, maybe 7 months ago, I'm guessing, I was doing the Royal Rumble, as part of Team Lesnar, and I didn't have a speech impediment. How are we going to explain this to the fans? And he's like, leave that to me, don't worry about it, kind of a thing. And but sure enough, I think I was right, because I think the fans, they just crapped all over it, rightfully so, because they know that's not how I talked. And then the ones who didn't know me whatsoever from Adam just probably didn't care. You know what I mean? And I tried, I don't know how you say this, but I tried, and I seriously practiced it to the best of my ability, and trying to get stuck on words and then replace it with a different word that I couldn't get out of my mouth and try to make it comical because it wasn't working in the other fashion.
Matt, when I used to work closely with Vince, and when Vince didn't have an answer or a reason for something, he always used to call it creative liberty. And it used to drive me out of my freaking mind because I never bought that, and I always hated it. That goes back to, Matt, like in wrestling, when you've got a baby face and the baby face becomes a heel, and all of a sudden the next night out, every single personality trait about that person has changed because he's nice to heel. Bro, that to this day drives me crazy. Bro, I got to tell you something. I was there when Kane started in the WWE. I look at Kane today, because I review Raw, and how that guy became to this guy with the story that was told out of the shoot, that drives me absolutely nuts. But anyway, Matt, so obviously, bro, you do this for a while, and then in 2005, they give you your release from the company. How does that go down? Who tells you that? How is that explained to you?
John Laurinaitis called me and basically said that, hey, look, it's not working like we had hoped it would work. We have an idea. We want to basically he said, obviously we're releasing you from your contract, but don't worry, because the idea is to get you off of TV for a year or so and then bring you back fresh once, the I guess you would say the stank of the gimmick has gone over with time. And the idea was to send me to Japan and just work there, improve, do whatever I got to do to kill time and still be paid, and then come back when they feel it was time. And you know what? At first I was all about it, but the more and more I thought about it, it was like, look, this wasn't my idea, the stuttering gimmick. Why am I mean, I know I'm accountable for my own actions and my own attempts at trying to make something work. I am. But I was still a little bitter about it. I'm not going to lie. I was still a little immature in the business to a degree to have that bitterness and that chip on my shoulder. And I took it with me to Japan, and I busted my ass, and I headlined pretty much every show that I worked on with New Japan, more or less, in some sort of fashion. Worked Tokyo Dome in the semi-main, then switched over to All Japan as well as Hustle. And I got better out there. I got a lot more confident, and I got a lot meaner. And I saw TNA was starting to really take off, and I knew Jimmy was over there, and I gave him a call and asked about what kind of opportunity would there be for me at TNA, if at all. And he introduced me to Jeff Jarrett.
Man, I got to tell you, Matt, that's where I really give Cornette credit, because, bro, I remember like it was yesterday. You weren't a part of TNA, and you weren't a part of the roster, and every time we taped, there you were with Cornette, and, Cornette was giving a sales pitch and cutting the promo over and basically saying, listen, if you can't get a 7-foot, 320-pound giant over, then I don't know what to tell you. And I used to agree with him. I mean, there was no question in my mind point, but at that time it was just really like a timing spot. And where can we find the spot for him, and how can we get him into the mix? So now you wind up signing a contract with TNA in 2007, correct?
Yes.
Now, Matt, I correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I'm 53 years old, and sometimes I don't remember things too good that much. But Jeff's still in charge at that point, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now explain to me your introduction to TNA from your perspective, bro. Do you feel like, okay, now I have an opportunity to make it, or do you feel like, here we go again?
Creatively, you're talking?
All around.
I felt creative. Well, when I first started, I was Jimmy's bodyguard. And if I didn't have Jimmy there to whether it's calm me down or coach me or talk me into, just relax, just wait. They'll bring you along the right way, the slow path. You'll see, that kind of a thing. I probably would have went crazy, because here I am. I'll admit it. I'm arrogant. I thought right away I could contribute to that roster. You have nobody on that roster anything close to Matt Morgan. What in the freak are we waiting for here? And it is what it is. I'm just being honest. That's how I thought. And so I'm like, all right, I'll just bide my time and do what Jimmy's saying and listen to him like I always did. And any opportunity I had, I was going to try to knock out of the ballpark. Whether it was me ruining the show when Jimmy was out of town and I had the book, quote unquote, to Impact that night when I had to make certain matches for some Christmas special, I think it was, and I just ruined the show, basically. Like, little opportunities like that, to have the mic in the center of the ring. I tried to do everything I could to impress you guys and show you that you had not just some big knuckle-dragging Neanderthal on your hands, but a guy that can do pretty much everything.
Well, Matt, let's start breaking this down now, because I want to fill in some of the blanks with you here, because I want you to understand my perspective. These are a lot of things, Matt, I never talked about before. I never had I never had the privilege to talk about them before or be honest before. A lot of times, Matt, people look at Vince Russo and he is the guy to blame. And Vince Russo, is creative. So whenever anything doesn't work out, it's Vince Russo's fault, bro. For an example, okay, Samoa Joe, was going out and literally, burying me. And I'm sitting at my house, and I'm reading these interviews, and I'm literally sitting here like an idiot saying, if I did something to Samoa Joe, I don't know what that is. So finally, bro, I emailed the guy, and I'm like, can you please explain what your heat is with me, Joe? Because I really don't have a clue. I really don't have any idea. And bro, I come to find out, that Samoa Joe is holding me responsible for being thrown into a van and getting taken away, and it never was explained, and he came back on TV, and it still never was explained, and in his opinion, it absolutely killed his career. So I find out for the first time 3 years after the fact, and you know me, bro, I don't believe in burying people. I don't believe in sending other people down the river or pointing the finger to anybody. I don't believe in that. But you're going to hold a grudge against me for 3 years and go out and bury me on interviews when the fact of the matter is, it wasn't even my idea, bro. I had nothing to do with it. I thought it was just as stupid as Samoa Joe thought it was. That's the fact of the matter. So now this guy builds up years and years and years of heat with me that I know nothing about. And then I come to find out, bro, it was an idea I had nothing to do with. That's the fact. When Vince Russo was in creative, Matt, I'm sorry I'm going on a little tirade here, but I want you to understand, okay? Bro, I was at TNA for 10 years, okay? Bro, the only time Vince Russo was the head of creative was in a 3-month window when Jeff Jarrett got sent home because of his shenanigans with Karen Jarrett and Eric Bischoff coming in. For those 3 months, Matt Conway and I wrote the shows. Outside of that, let's start at 207 when we've now got Matt Morgan on our roster. And these are things about, these are things, I'm not saying these things for the first time. You know, I've been saying these things forever, but I got to get these things out. Listen, do you want to say something before I get these things out? I feel like I'm doing a lot of the talking.
I thought you were the head of creative longer, though. I thought it was from like '07 or when Jeff got sent away, whatever the date that was, till like 2010, 2011.
Yeah, okay, beautiful. Let's pick it up there. First of all, Matt, you come in 2000. I'm sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Wait, let me finish. I was going to say, which I might say, my opinion, and a lot of the other guys' opinion, I thought was our most successful time at Impact.
When was that?
My opinion, from I'd say when Jeff was sent away through before Eric came.
Okay, now I want to discuss some of these things, Matt. And Matt, here's the reason why I discuss these things, right? Because Matt, you know, I've always said the reason why I want to do this is, listen, bro, I'm not some schmo interviewing you that never put a day in the wrestling business. I was in the wrestling business for 23 years. I had the privilege of working with Matt Morgan. I had the privilege of being there. I know what went on. Here are the pitfalls of the wrestling business. And you, my friend, you didn't fall into just one. You fell into two very big pitfalls, and I'm going to point them out to you. Bro, the first fact of the matter is I'm working creative, okay? But this is before the Kurt Angle, Jeff Jarrett incident. I'm working creative with Jeff Jarrett, with Dutch Mantel. Jeff Jarrett is the champion of the company, bro. Jeff Jarrett is going to put himself first. Now, bro, listen, that's not a shot at Jeff Jarrett. That is any wrestler in that position. If any wrestler is in charge of creative, they are going to put themselves over. That's not a shot at Jeff Jarrett. That is human nature. The wrestler is taught very early on, protect my spot, protect my spot, protect my spot. So guess what, Matt? If the wrestler has the book, the first thing he's going to do is protect his spot. So now you've got a guy like Matt Morgan, who's got all the tools that you have, but me as a writer on the staff, I got to work around the champion whose spot he has to protect. So no matter what I think of you, like you said, Matt, there's nobody else on this roster that looks like you. No matter what I personally think, I'm working around the champion who owns the company and who has the book. You follow me so far on that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And now Jeff goes home. Okay, now me and Conway, Dixie comes to me, Vince, you gotta write TV. No, Dixie, I've written a show or two in my day. I can write TV, right? now me and Conway, bro, we don't have to worry about the booker being the champ and putting himself over. It's a brand new day. It's a clean slate. We're gonna now give everybody their opportunity, man. Go out there and grab this thing by the freaking throat, because at the end of the day, whoever is getting themselves over and whoever the fans are going with, that's the person you go with. That is a non-political wrestling situation that only happens when wrestlers aren't involved. And when you have writers involved that don't give a crap about getting themselves over. Once you got wrestlers involved, it's not an even playing field. So, Matt, we go down this road. Me and Matt, Conway, are working as best as we can. Bro, behind my back, while all this is going on, Dixie's Carter is talking to Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan, the two guys that are going to save the company. Okay? So now she tells me Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan are coming in. She's in love with these two guys. These guys can now do no wrong. They're going to take it to the promised land. Unfortunately, I've been in the wrestling business for a long time, Matt, to know it doesn't work that way. No one guy is going to turn your company around. I don't care if it's Hulk Hogan. I don't care if it's John Cena. Go ahead, Matt. Interject.
I agree with that. When Hulk coming in, that was the biggest sign I've ever seen that now there's nobody, not one man can change anything. You're absolutely right.
Not one, nothing against Hulk Hogan. No one man is bigger than the wrestling business. No one man in history. The wrestling business is bigger than any individual.
Yes.
Bro, the first week Eric Bischoff is there. This is a shoot, bro. This is a shoot in front of me and Ed Ferrara with all our experience and all our success. He literally takes our script, literally rips it up in front of our eyes, and basically says nothing existed before we got here.
Wow.
Nothing existed. Bro, meanwhile, Matt Conway was there from day one, and Matt Conway's like looking at me saying nothing existed. We've been doing this for the last 7 years. Nothing existed. But you know what, bro? We went with it. We went, okay, you know, these are the two golden child, you know, these are the guys. Bro, Spike bought into these guys, hook, line, and sinker. They're going to turn this company upside down. So we go with it, okay? Now, I've got Matt Morgan, okay, bro, you know, on the surface, Vince was head of creative, but you've got Hulk and Eric sitting in on every creative session, and when they suggest something, you know you don't have too much of a choice because Dixie brought them in as the golden guys that were going to save the company. So whether you disagree or not, now you could speak up. You know, you can say how you feel, but at the end of the day, you know, they were the brand new shiny car. We were going to do what they wanted to do. Yep. Okay. Now let's get back to Matt Morgan. Okay. Matt, chime in here. I got to rest my voice for a second.
You sure you're on a good tangent?
I want to roll, right? Okay. Now, here's mistake number one for Matt Morgan. And bro, we can go all the way back to your first 2003 you went to SmackDown? Yeah. Let's go all the way back to there. Okay? Bro, there's no way a guy your size that looks like you and is Kuma. Wait, let me get it, Matt. Let me go back through my notes here because I want to say this right because I don't want you yelling at me. Magnum cum laude that walks into a locker room and isn't going to be a threat to every freaking guy on the roster, bro. This is the guy that's going to take our spot. Now, bro, the politics kick in. Now the business starts going on behind your back. Yeah, you know, now the top guy who's about your size gets in Laurinaitis' ear, and this one gets in that ear, and that one gets in this ear. That's what starts happening. Now, here's the problem, Matt. Put the camera back on, Matt. I want to look at him. Here you go. Here's the problem, Matt. You're the nicest guy in the world. So while you go in there wanting to learn, wanting to be respectful, wanting to be as good as you can be, you got all this BS going behind your back. You don't even know what's happening. You're the nicest guy in the world. You're not a prick and you're not an a-hole. So now, bro, you're getting buried because all you care about is being the best that you can be. Shame on you, Matt. You should have concentrated more on being political and you burying other people and you starting to get into people's ears because, bro, from day one, with your look and your personality, you did not have a chance. Before I get into phase two, would you like to comment on that?
That makes 1,000% sense, man. It does. It's good. I mean, it's good to hear someone else, you know, from your perspective say it, though. You know, a guy who's been there and done that. It's good to hear because it's something in the back of your head, but the way my dad raised me is you're accountable for everything that you do. You don't blame shit on other people. You know, no matter what, it's a shame that God forbid you try to be a 7 foot 300-pound sponge for the business and try to, you know what I mean? Do what you got to do to be a coachable performer.
But Matt, listen, here's where I give you all the credit in the world, and here's why I love you as an individual, bro. You don't want to change. Screw everybody else, bro. It's who you are. You know what, Matt? At the end of the day, bro, you got to wake up and you got to look yourself in the mirror. At the end of the day, bro, you got to go home and you got to look at the lovely Larissa in the eye. At the end of the day, bro, now you got to go home and look at Jackson. There's nothing more important than you staying true to yourself, and screw everybody else, bro. If those kind of individuals made sure Matt Morgan wasn't going to be a main eventer, bro, who's the loss really on? Give me a freaking break, bro. Look at the product on Monday night. Look at the ratings they're doing. Who's laughing now? You got a guy like Matt Morgan who's going to get buried before he even started. You're going to go along with it. And what do you got? You got a 2.9 rating? Come on. Let me go to the Eric Hulk era. Yeah, I got to take a sip of coffee out of my monkey cup.
I'll join you.
Okay. Now, Matt, here's problem number 2. And I want to make this clear, Matt. Just like it wasn't a Jeff Jarrett issue that I'm the champion, I'm going to keep myself over, I'm going to protect my spot. That's a wrestling issue. That's not a Jeff Jarrett issue. Now we go to Eric and Hulk that have been in the business forever and have their philosophies of being in the business. Okay? Now, we'd be in creative sessions, we'd be in agent meetings, okay? And the one thing, bro, I always used to hear from these guys, okay? And I know why it made sense, okay? Put the camera on Matt. I want to see his reaction to this when I say it. Matt, listen to me. The one thing I always used to hear that drove me crazy was he doesn't act like a giant. Now, well, hold on, Matt. Now, listen. Now, think about this because, bro, it's all logical. But, bro, these are the problems in the wrestling business that exist today. Okay? Now, Eric's looking at, AWA, where he was raised and where he was philosophy, his philosophy, the Giants would come in, bro. They'd beat the crap out of everybody. They'd never say a word. They spit snot out of their nose. They'd grunt. They were dirty. They was filthy. They smelled. Okay? Yep. Bro, put the camera on Matt because I want him to answer this. Bro, who is Hulk Hogan comparing you to?
Andre?
Of course, bro. That's Hulk Hogan's experience in the wrestling business. His experience with Giants in the wrestling business, Matt, were him and Andre the Giant. So in Hulk's mind, the way he came up in the business, we've got a 7-foot guy that needs to act a certain way. Andre did this and Andre did that. Well, here's the problem, bro. And this is the problem with wrestling across the board. Okay? Andre the Giant had his run 25 years ago. It is 2014. Everything that worked in wrestling back then doesn't work today. And not only that, Matt Morgan is a handsome guy. Matt Morgan is magna cum laude. Matt Morgan is a husband, a family man, a respectable guy. Bro, book Matt Morgan like Matt Morgan. Don't book Matt Morgan like Andre the Giant or Hulk Hogan. Book Matt Morgan like Matt Morgan. Take all of Matt Morgan's tools and book him that way.
Vince,
now,
can I just say one thing?
Go ahead. Go back to Matt.
I talked with Hulk about this, and he doesn't follow NBA or anything like that, so I think that's where I lost him. But the blueprint persona, character, is the whole premise of it, and you know this better than anybody I've worked with, actually. The whole premise of it is I'm not fee, fi, fo, fum, bum, big, fat, slow, and dumb. That's not me, okay? I'm trying to advance how the Giants viewed in 2014. That includes no dragging knuckles. It's akin to when Kevin Garnett goes into the NBA, 1995, 96, I think it was, and he's the first 7-footer to start bringing the ball up the floor as a small forward. It was insane. And to this day, the NBA has completely evolved back from that moment when KG was really the first 7-footer to be able to do something like that. And he advanced the vision of the way a big man was perceived back then. Okay, to today, we have Dirk Nowitzki at 7-footer shooting fadeaway threes. Same thing with wrestling. I don't understand why in the blue hell wrestling can't evolve the same as sports.
Can I stop you right there and tell you? Keep the camera on Matt. Matt, let me stop right there and tell you exactly why. Okay? Here's the problem with the wrestling business, Matt. You've got dinosaurs still in the business in key spots who are still trying to protect their spot, much like Jeff Jarrett as a worker was trying to protect him. Now, here's the problem, Matt. Anybody who thinks like you, or anybody who is a progressive thinker and wants to take wrestling into 2014 so it prospers again, well, now what we have to do is two things. First of all, keep those guys at bay. Do not let them in. Whatever you have to do, bury them, call them baby killers. It doesn't matter. Don't let them get hired. And then, you know, Matt, that's the business. And then basically, you know, if we did what you wanted to do, Matt, and now Matt Morgan has this great idea to revolutionize wrestling in 2014. Matt Morgan is a magna cum laude, smarter than everybody else in the locker room. But guess what, Matt? Now if we start going along with the Matt Morgans of the world, and now if we start going along with this trend and this way of thinking, guess what? What do we need them for? You understand that? That's the last thing in the world that they want to happen. What do you need them for if we advance the wrestling business in 2014? All of a sudden, bro, everything they learned 25, 30 years ago, it doesn't matter. So the problem is, bro, you got people in those positions protecting their spots. That's why there's no growth whatsoever in the wrestling business. And Matt, the wrestling business is dying a slow death because, Matt, you know better than anybody. It's this basic, Matt. In 2014, Matt, okay, if a heel is in the ring, right, and he's talking smack about a babyface, right, bro? He's on the mic. Randy Orton's on the mic talking smack about a babyface, right? Now, all of a sudden, from the locker room, here comes Roman Reigns, right? Reigns hits that ring, right? The heel powders because, of course, Matt, all heels run away. First of all, I don't think Randy Orton would run away from a guy with a shotgun. That's first of all. But he's a heel, so he has to run away. But then, Matt, to make matters worse, Orton runs away, and then, Matt, the babyface doesn't go after him. He stands in the ring like the ropes are a concrete wall, and he can't go over the ropes to pursue the heel. And you know why that is, Matt?
I'm guilty of it too.
That's wrestling, bro. That's wrestling, and that you don't do that in wrestling. It was never done that way. The heel runs away, and the babyface stands his ground in the ring. Bro, you know what? In 2014, people look at that, and they laugh at it. It is a joke, and it's why nobody watches the product, and it's totally why, bro, with the talent that you had and the talent that you brought to the table, and you're still only 37 freaking years old, you are home now on the outside looking in. Those are all the reasons why, because you are a threat. You could have changed the way a big man was presented in the wrestling business. and you were so nice and such a stand-up guy that it wasn't in your DNA to be an a-hole and to be a dick and to cause trouble and to be burying other people in order to get ahead. That, bro, is your career and your circumstances, in my opinion, in a nutshell.
Hey, you know what? If that's the case, like you said, I look at the man in the mirror at the end of the day and I'll take that and run and be proud of that. You know what I'm saying? Like we said earlier, I never changed myself for this business. People might say, well, that was stupid. You should have. You can be a freaking zillionaire now if you did. That wouldn't work for me. That just wouldn't work for me. I'm not saying I'm holier than thou, but I'm a Christian at the end of the day. And no business, no man, no anything will change my morals, my beliefs, and the example that I go on to set for my son. And that includes wrestling. Wrestling, that's never going to be a concern for me.
You know, Matt, I swear it's so funny, bro, because I just had this same conversation with Mike Sanders last week. And, bro, Mike Sanders, you know, brought up Christianity, okay? And Matt, I don't know how you feel about this. I want to get your comment on this. Matt, thank God, you know, I became a saved Christian 12 years ago, okay? Matt, the day I became a Christian was the last 12 years, bro, have been the hardest years of my life, because I am a true believer, bro, and I believe that everything I do and everything that comes out of my mouth, I am put on earth for one reason and one reason only, to glorify God. Those are my beliefs, bro. I am sitting home now like you because what just happened to me at TNA, I didn't speak up, and I didn't cut promos on everybody, and I didn't bury other people. I let myself be buried, but absolutely knowing the truth. But the one thing I tell people is, you know you've become a Christian when things start getting really, really hard for you, because now you're going against the grain of how people really act, because we're all sinners and we all act a certain way. And the minute you become a Christian, you're aware of that, and you try to change everything about yourself every single day when you wake up. Now, Matt, you know, you just said it yourself, you know, you are a Christian. Was that troublesome for you in the business? Did you feel that affected you in any way, just having such strong Christian beliefs?
Luckily, I really wasn't put in too many predicaments like someone like yourself. Definitely, as a Christian, I can just imagine the push and pull you must have gone through eternally with you know, trying to rationalize what's going on with your job versus doing the Lord's work. That's a tough one for you. I definitely second you on that. But me, personally speaking, I never say I was saved, and to each their own. I'm not judging those people that say that they're born again and all that other type of thing. To me, He's never left. He's been knocking on my door my whole life. And for me to finally just open the door and let the guy in and run my life and get the hell out of his way, that's when my life completely turned. And that's when I got sober. That's when I got off drugs. And that's when I started up right with TNA a year later, actually. My whole WWE run, I was an addict, hooked line and sinker on over 40 to 60 milligrams of oxy and hydrocodone every 4 hours around the clock, never missed a 4-hour window. And so for me, he's never left me. It was just me opening the door and fully letting him in to run my life. and take them in my heart and
But
all of
but
that.
but let me stop you there, Matt, because I'm very very interested about this. And listen, this is why I do this podcast, and this is why I have these people on, because this is all that matters. And at the end of the day, some people are going to find that out the hard way. The rest of us know that. But Matt, just again, we're talking for other people now, that have been
Yeah.
in that spot. Now, Matt, was it a rock bottom moment? Was it, just an awakening one day of, if I don't stop this, I'm going to be dead in 3 months? With that addiction that you had, explain to me, bro. You mentioned God, knocking at the door.
Right.
Tell me how it ended.
I was at a tour. I was on a tour with a company called NWE in Italy. And for the first time, and I'd say 4 years, I was using painkillers and abusing them. For the first time ever, I finally ran out. So it was my first time going through withdrawal. And I was a fully functioning addict. So I knew I had a problem, but I wasn't, I was easily able to rationalize, So I started knocking on some of the other guys' doors at the hotel when I ran out, like, any of you guys have any painkillers kind of thing. And one by one, I'd see the look that I was getting back from these guys. And I was like, holy crap, I'm that guy. I've just turned into that guy. The older, and even though I was young, but I'm the older guy that's going around knocking on doors begging for painkillers. It's pathetic. And I was like, I'm that weak guy right now. And I was so embarrassed by it. I was so disgusted that I called my wife from Italy. I was like, look, I'm going to get on the first flight I can back home. I need you to do me a favor and find a rehab in Orlando near where we live. Find the crappiest one you can find, not a posh, nice place out in California, some dump. I need the you-know-what scared out of me, because, honey, the next step is either jail or death for me. It really is. Me maybe writing fake scripts to get pills. I would have probably done whatever. That's how serious my withdrawals were. So long story short, I get home from Italy. She brings me to my rehab. And once I was in there, I had nobody else. This particular place was more kind of like it wasn't prison, but it felt like one. I didn't have any outside touch. I couldn't call my mother, my father. I couldn't call my wife but once a week. And I had nobody else. And guess what happens? You should know this. Guess what happens when you have nobody else to turn to? Miraculously, the Bible starts coming out. Miraculously, you're talking to your inner self. And my inner self, just trying to collect my thoughts as I'm sobering up, mind you. And so that's when I remember almost feeling like I'm making a deal with God. Like, if you get me through this, because this is my own personal hell on earth. This feels horrible. Throwing up, feeling so weak and just disgusted with yourself, while I'm in rehab. You get me through this, and over this addiction, I promise I will, go on to do whatever I need to do in life while spreading your word. And a long story short, I felt like I got conversations with them, go through the Bible, make things make sense for what I was going through at that moment. And I had that all the way through. Then through my next run through TNA, I'm not saying I was like again, I'm not holier than thou. I definitely am a sinner, and I'll be a sinner tomorrow. That's not going to change. I'll try to improve myself along the way was my goal, and try to do good for fellow man while I had that next run through TNA. And I did that through speaking on behalf of DARE and police athletic leagues. Every single week I was doing that, as well as, ADHD things such as CHAD organizations and things like that. And again, not holier than thou, but I definitely, I thought, represented as if anybody looked up to me, I definitely think I held my own as far as being a pretty good example for that person.
Yeah, Matt, I swear it's funny that you say that, because it's when you talk about, we're all sinners, we're human being, that's how we were wired. We came directly from Adam, so it's going to be in us. Yep. I swear, bro, I spend so much time like beating myself up every day because I messed up, because I got mad at somebody, because I cut a promo on somebody, whatever the case may be. But man, the one thing I do know, and you just said it and you just mirrored it, the next day, bro, wake up, dust myself all over again.
Yeah.
Let's give this thing another shot, and let's just, let's just represent the best way we possibly can today.
And Vince, don't think for 1 second he doesn't know that.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? And that's what
Yeah.
we're being judged on. That's my opinion. This is all a test. This is a blip on the map compared to where we're going.
Matt, I don't even want to talk, I don't even want to go back to the wrestling anymore, because this is such a high note and this is all that matters. But when you finally, Matt, when you finally walked away, Matt, here's the thing. This is what I want to discuss with you a little bit, because I don't want this to happen to you. And I hope this conversation helps you. Okay. Matt, do you know since 2006, I've walked away from the wrestling business 3 times. 3 times, Matt. And after I became saved, it was once I became saved. I'm sorry, Matt. It was about 2004. Once I became saved, the first time, as soon as I became a Christian, I walked away because I saw the world for what it was and I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. But then, Matt, what happened was, the reality of how am I going to make a living? How am I going to support my family? Where's the money going to come from? I went back. Okay. Guess what, Matt? I went back. Nothing changed. Okay. I left again, bro. So now I'm sitting at home again and I'm like, man, how am I going to support my family? Where's the money going to come from? This is what I do. Matt, I went back a second time. Nothing changed. Matt, same thing happened. I left again. I left a third time. And that's where, Matt, I beat myself up. Because Christianity means 100% dependency on God. He created me. He is going to take care of me as long as I spread his word and do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I am not to worry about anything. I am not driving the car. He's driving the car, not me. Is that something that you struggled with once you finally decided to leave? And does that still creep in at some point today?
No, because the Lord blessed me with more than one skill set, Vince. No disrespect to those that are fathers within the business. God bless them. Maybe they're stronger than me. I'm being able to be away from their kids. I'm not. I have a different skill set. It's not just being a big athlete and all the other attributes I might have physically. The Lord blessed me with other skill sets, and that's what I'm using right now. I've got a job right now that, quite frankly, wrestling wouldn't pay me more financially for. Okay, wrestling can't outpay what I'm doing right now for a living. And that's a straight up shoot. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trying to make it sound glorier than it really is. But again, so he kind of made it easy for me, to be perfectly honest, with the pile of positively that I stepped in here with this new opportunity at a career. Okay, something that I don't have to worry about stuff financially. So I don't have to worry about feeling weak and going back to wrestling and rationalizing, well, look, I needed to make a paycheck. No, I don't. So it's not going to happen.
Matt, I got to tell you, here's the thing, bro. Here's the thing that I took. I did the research for you today, bro. Like I said, a lot of things I was not aware of, and I go through this whole thing, okay? And bro, here's the difference. And look at wrestling, bro. Look at the industry. Look at the people involved in it. Think about in their bio. How many of the people in their bio would end the last sentence this way? Because, bro, I read this. And when I read this, I was like, you know what? This is all you need to know about Matt Morgan. Nothing else matters. Nothing. The whole trials and the tribulations and back and forth, OVW, SmackDown, TNA, all that crap means nothing. The very last thing I read about you, which choked me up, and I'm not kidding you, was that your biggest dream was to be a father.
No
And
question.
bro, I have to tell you, as your friend, and even if I didn't know you, when I read that last statement, bro, I just said to myself, that is all you need to know about this man. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
I appreciate that, Vince. Thank you.
Now, Matt, listen, we can go on and I could talk to you for the next 3 or 4 hours, but we ended this on a very good, high, positive note. You and I know why we're here and what we're supposed to be doing and what word we're spreading. It was our obligation to do that, and we did that. I feel good about it, bro. If one single person, one, looks
Yeah.
at this interview between you and I and get it, and the light bulb goes off, just like you, Matt. I mean, the battle with drugs, and there was only one way to turn. Matt, I've made it clear. I'm not. I don't hide anything anymore. I've dealt with depression for the last 30 years. There's only one guy that I turn to. There's only one guy that can help me. All the pills in the world, that's not going to help. I mean, I know that, and that's why if one person can see your story and can learn from you, that's all that really matters. And in doing so, Matt, now going forward, if people want to get in touch with you and people want to follow you and people want to correspond with you, being that what you told them here today touched them, how can they go about doing that, Matt? Because I think that's very important.
Just on Twitter at BP Matt Morgan. On Twitter, I don't have Facebook or any of the other stuff, just Twitter. And if it's something that's really like some of the things that we talked about here, whether it be addiction, dependency issues, anything you can think of, that's something more private, we can figure a way out from that moment forward on how maybe to make it more private where we can have some conversations and maybe I can help you along the way.
Well, Matt, I want to make one thing clear to you in closing, and I hope this stays with you and this is in the back of your mind. And I know you already know this. I don't even need to tell you this, but it's going to make me feel better closing our interview this day. Matt, you are on the outside looking in because you were too good a human being with too good a heart to exist in the wrestling business, and you did everything for all the right reasons. And bro, at the end of this day, I pray to God, Matt, that one day little Jackson digs up this interview that we did here this day when he's old enough to understand, and he can basically see this is how my father carried himself, throughout his life. Because, bro, that is the most important thing in the world, and that's all that matters.
1000% agree with you. I appreciate you saying that, Vince. You get it, and thank you.
Well, Matt, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on here. Listen, I'm going to stay in touch with you. I want to have you on again because there's just so much more we could talk about life, which is all that really matters. I want to keep in touch with you, as Jackson grows up and just those experiences with you. And like I said, Matt, with your story and the addiction and what you've overcome, you need to be out there talking to people, and I'm going to make sure that happens.
Thank you, Vince. I agree.
All right, Matt. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. And everybody, we will be back with the Swerve right after this.